So for the last 8 years, I've eaten one food at least 3 days a week. And it's not steak, it's ground beef. Now, before I get into that, this video is especially for the guy who's been working that blue collar job for 15, 20, 30, 40 years. You know, you're on your feet all day long, or you're behind the wheel all day, early mornings, long shifts, midnight shifts, and somewhere along the way, the weight crept on, your energy dropped, right? And you're not quite where you used to be when you were 20, when you were 25 or 30. You've tried a few things along the way, nothing stuck. And it's like I said, you've been there. I've been there. But I'm telling you right now, you're not stuck. And one of the things that helped me turn this around when I started the ketogenic and incorporated a little bit of the carnivore lifestyle, and I actually can stick with this for years, it is something as simple as ground beef. Now, I'm not talking, fancy meals. I am not complicated plans or prepackaged meal products, right? And this is something that is simple, that works in the real world. Now, if you're trying to figure out keto and carnivore, that feels a little too complicated or too expensive to keep up with, this might be one of the easiest ways to get started and actually stay consistent. So in this video, I'm going to show you why I consider ground beef to be a keystone food and how I've used it for years to keep this simple, even with a real job and a real schedule. Now, when I say keystone food, here's what I mean. If I had to build an entire way around eating, around just a few foods that I'll stick to, ground beef would probably be one of them, right? Not because it's perfect, but because it's practical. This is about what you can do over and over and over again, and not what looks good just on paper. Now, let's talk about cost, because this is where a lot of people get this wrong. You might spend more at the grocery store, okay? I mean, I just walked out of Costco a couple weeks ago, dropped about $500 on mostly meat. But here's what I found. When you're eating food that actually fills you up, you're not constantly looking for something else, right? You're not hitting fast food. You're not getting snacks at the gas station on your way to the next job site. You're not eating all day long. Because when you start eating this way, your body will adjust. And foods like ground beef will actually keep you full. See, you're now getting, by eating things like ground beef, enough protein and enough fat. And that gives you a level of satiety where you're not constantly thinking about food. Because let's be honest, when you think about food, that's when your body says, hey, I'm hungry. So you are not now white knuckling your way through the day. You're just, again, not hungry. So while the grocery bill may look a little higher, the total cost of how you eat, what you eat, can actually go down. And that's something both my wife and I have come to realize after 8 years of this. And that is something like what ground beef, that's where ground beef actually really helps. It gives you a way to keep this simple and controlled without feeling like you need expensive cuts like ribeye all the time. The other thing is you're now getting solid protein. And I just had a video about how men need to eat more protein. And you're also getting enough fat, because the fat is what's going to fill you up. And that's what matters. Because when you're full, you're not fighting those cravings all day. You're not constantly thinking about your next meal. And it makes it that much easier to stick with. Now, one of the biggest reasons this works is its simplicity. Ground beef is easy to cook. It's easy to buy. It's easy to store. And it's easy to repeat. And when something is easy to repeat, that is actually how you stay consistent. Now, for me personally, I've been doing this 8 years, and I still eat ground beef a minimum of 3 days a week. And I'll be honest with you, most of the time I'm not doing anything fancy. And if I could get away with it, I would probably eat ground beef 4, 5, 6 days a week. And it's usually just, bunless cheeseburgers, or I'm just frying it up in a pan with seasoning, salt, pepper. Maybe I'll throw in some taco seasoning one day. Some days I'll throw in, dehydrated onions and some habanero pepper, right? That's it. And most of the time, I keep this simple, right? Because that's what keeps me consistent. But this is where this lifestyle goes beyond just you, because you are not always just cooking for yourself, right? If you're a husband, if you're a dad, you are setting the tone in your family, in your house, not by forcing anything, but by what you constantly and consistently do. Now, when I want to bring some variety in, make it for other people in the house to get on board with this lifestyle, the way I'm eating, right? That's when I'll reach for here. This is the Carnivore Cookbook by Maria. I'm going to see if I get the light on it. There we go. By Maria and Craig Emmerich. Okay. And I actually went through this book. There's 100 recipes in this book, and 19 of them use ground beef either as the main ingredient or as an option. So when people say you'll get bored eating ground beef, because they will, you're going to be like, oh, you're eating ground beef again. The reality is you have options. And I'm sorry about the dog barking. That's Spike in the background. He wants to come out and play. I'm not going to let him. Anyways, so let me go ahead and give you a few recipes, just 2 of them, right? So here is, and I'm not going to show you the recipes. I want you, if you want, there'll be a link down below if you want to get this book off Amazon. And I highly recommend anybody in the keto or carnivore lifestyle get this book. They have several other books, by the way. Their keto air fryer cookbook's amazing. But here's one recipe right here called the Carnivore Waffle, right? Ground beef, eggs, sea salt, and a carnivore hollandaise sauce, which they show you how to make, right? Next one. And this is actually one of them, because that hollandaise sauce is really good. Here's their Salisbury steak, right? Ground beef, sea salt, lard, and then blue cheese crumbles, ghee, unsalted butter, and carnivore hollandaise sauce. So, for me, the simplicity is what keeps me consistent, and the variety is what helps bring others along. So, if you're trying to start keto, don't overcomplicate this. If you're trying to do carnivore, don't overcomplicate this. You don't need 100 different foods, right? You need a few foods that you can repeat. Ground beef, eggs, a handful of simple meals that you can take along the way. And gentlemen, if you've got value out of this, go ahead, hit like, consider subscribing to the channel. I am designing this channel for men over 35 who are, blue collar guys. We work with our hands, and we've allowed our weight to get out of control. We allowed our fat to build up on our bodies, and I want to be able to help men like some men have helped me in the past. So thank you very much, gentlemen, and I'll see you in the next one.